So on today's Card Academy lesson, we're going to be going over the sandwich load. Now, the sandwich load is one of those tricks, one of those things that is taken for granted often in Magic, and it's a way of loading a card between two jokers. Now, it's a very, very simple method, but it's still one that does warrant some sort of study. And today I'm going to show you not only how to load a card between two cards, for example, the jokers, but also how to continuously load a card while you're loading cards. I know it sounds more complicated than it is, but trust me, you'll make it through. And also how to do a very effective switch from the sandwich load position. So first things first is the actual load itself. So the load itself, first thing, you're going to show two jokers to the spectator just like this. Now this is going to be your misdirection to get a break underneath the top card of the deck. So you could do that in whatever way you want. Usually I like to do this method where you're pulling up on the upper left corner of the deck. This is known as the Harvey Rosenthal method because you are allowing the pressure that your thumb is exuding. So this is essentially what you want to do, but your forefinger happens to be there putting pressure, which is actually going to cause this back to bubble up. So that's going to be one way that you get a break. So you're going to put these jokers on top of that break card. So now you have a situation where you have essentially a break under three cards on top of the deck. So now what's going to happen, you're going to lift all these three cards as one. You're going to use your left thumb to drag that joker on top of the deck. Now usually what I like to do is maintain a break below that card. Depending on the trick, you might want to maintain a break below that particular card. Or you might want to put the break below these two cards. Really depends on the trick, but now would be the time to do it and make sure that you don't have to get a break later on in whatever trick you're doing. So you're going to place this joker, which is actually two cards if you remember. You're holding it square. You're going to place it on top, and then that is going to complete the sandwich load. So now you have loaded secretly a card between the jokers. In this case, the 7 of diamonds. This could be a selected card. This could be any sort of card that you want the spectator to have a revelation of between the two particular jokers. After an appropriate magic move, you could show that you have trapped one card between the jokers, and it happens to be the selected card. Now this is a little bit of an interesting idea from Ed Marlowe, which allows you to make a sort of production out of this sandwich load move. So what I mean by that is let's say you want to produce the aces from between the jokers. You show the fact that you want to show the jokers. So just like this. This time the only difference is that you're going to be lifting them up, but that's going to be to hide the action of getting another break between the cards. I'm going to explain everything for now, but I want you to see the move in action. So the first thing, you're going to show that there's a card that has appeared between the jokers, just like this. In this case, it happens to be an ace. Now, of course, if you snap your fingers or do whatever appropriate magic move at this point, you could show that there's another card now sandwiched between the jokers, and it happens to be another ace. And you could go until you reveal the rest of the aces or whatever cards you want to happen to reveal. But you could do that until your deck is exhausted, which I'm pretty sure the spectators will be exhausted before then. But who am I to judge? So for this, what you're going to do the standard sandwich load. So you're going to pick up these three cards. You're going to use your thumb to push these two jokers off. Then you are going to, instead of just simply squaring this up with a card, you're actually going to use your thumb and the middle finger to pick up the joker and show them one last time in this position. The reason for that is because you're going to obtain a break below the top card of the deck. So now you put all these cards underneath, and you're going to have a break under 4 cards instead of the usual 3. So in this case, you're going to lift up all these 4 cards. You're going to show the fact that there's been a card that's appeared between the jokers. You're going to thumb this off. And then lastly, you're going to be holding a double with this hand. So you're going to do the exact same action as before. You're going to lift all these cards. You're going to peel off with your thumb. You're going to peel the next card, which is going to be the revelation. I like to outjog this card. And then you're going to square up this joker with the top card of the deck. So now you could show that there's a card that's appeared between the joker. Now, of course, in this action, you've loaded another card between the jokers. So you could do this as many times as you want. Now, you could take these 3 cards, you could spread it and show that there's been another card that's appeared between the jokers, and repeat the move itself where you are just peeling these cards to show that you are producing the aces. Now, of course, at any point in time, you could show the fact that there's nothing between the jokers by just lifting 3 cards as one, using your middle finger to drag the bottom card towards the left, and show the fact that you just have 2 jokers. Now, of course, you're getting ready to load the card subsequently. When you put it on top, you could do whatever magic move you want. Show the card between, do the exact same action as before, and you now have a nice little bit of a production where you have produced supposedly 4 cards or whatever cards the spectator has picked. Now what I like about this move is the economy of motion, because you are essentially doing the load as you are showing the actual card to have magically appeared between the jokers. So at this point, you could show the card, and of course, you've already loaded it. So it's a wonderful move in terms of economy of motion. It's a wonderful move in terms of not having the spectator be aware of what's going on. Now the next move is a little bit of a sandwich switch. So what I mean by that, you show a card between the jokers. In this case, we have the 7 of diamonds. Now, of course, in this action, you could take that 7 and you could place it in the middle of the deck, just like that. You could show the jokers to be very clean, and of course, the 7 goes in the middle. But after sufficient magic, the 7 comes back between the jokers. So all you're doing here is you're doing the same thing. You're getting a break underneath the top card of the deck. You're squaring all these cards up. So now you have a break underneath 4 cards on top of the deck. You're going to lift all these 4 cards up as one, drag this first card, drag this next card. I like to keep a break underneath the first joker, by the way. You're going to drag this next card, and then you're going to put this card on top of this whole situation. So if you spread the cards right now, you actually have 2 cards between the jokers, being the first card, the first lowermost indifferent card happens to be their card, and this one happens to be an indifferent card. So all you're going to do now is pull back on this top joker. You're going to push and out jog this card forward, which is actually going to be an indifferent card. But that card goes in the middle of the deck very cleanly. You could square it up, no moves whatsoever. And of course, that card is already loaded. Their card is actually already loaded between the jokers. So you have just switched that card surreptitiously. Another thing you could do, for example, if you have 2 cards selected, you could actually show this first card and reveal it, much like in the first trick. Then you could switch that card, place this card on the table, show the fact that there isn't anything between the jokers, maybe cut the jokers into the deck, say, look, they're doing a little bit of a magic search. You scroll through here and you find that there's actually 1 card between the joker, and the spectator is of course going to assume that it's going to be the next card or the second card the spectator picked. Of course, when you show it, it happens to be the very same card that you placed aside. But then guess what? When you show this, it happens to be maybe the second spectator selection. So that becomes a little bit of a transposition that makes use of the switch. So you see that it's a very, very useful move and a useful technique to have. Now, one quick note as to the reasoning as to why you're showing the jokers. Now, one thing that you don't want to do is that you don't want to show the jokers too much and then get into the sandwich load where you show the jokers again. Now, the point of this particular move, and I think the logic, is that you are showing the jokers. So that should be your cover for the actual sandwich load itself, is that you are showing whatever cards that are going to be the sandwich per se. So if you happen to show these cards too much, oh, look at these jokers, look at these jokers, look at these jokers, look at these jokers some more, that becomes a little bit suspicious. So try to hide, not too much, but just try to be not so showy with the jokers when you first show them. So that gives you motivation to drop these on top of the deck, maybe gesture towards the spectator, and then finally, that's when you execute the sandwich move, so you could show both jokers to the spectator. You don't want to be showy with them and then show them some more. It doesn't really make sense. It's very redundant, and the spectators might latch onto that. So always have a motivation as to why you're doing that particular move. So in this case, if you want, you could use 2 kings. That's a way that I've used motivation before. Use 2 kings, and you could point out the fact that the kings have different swords. In this particular deck, I think the red kings are the ones that happen to have different swords. So one has an axe, one has a sword through his head, the King of Hearts, if you guys haven't realized that. And you could point that out. You could say, look, this one has a battle axe, and this one uses a sword that's actually through his head. And we're going to be using that because he's loco. He's loco. So look, they go in the middle of the deck, and they happen to sandwich 1 card. Lo and behold, and it happens to be your card, sir, the Joker, or whatever. But you see that it's a very, very versatile move. It's a very effective move, and it's a very powerful move in what it can accomplish. So definitely work on that. Work on ideas. Please leave in the comments below any sort of ideas you guys may have with these moves. Sorry, I apologize for the manspreading, but it's the boot right there. You see that? It's the big old boot. So thank you guys for being members of the Card Academy, and I hope to see you on the next lesson.